So I've been playing a lot of Yakuza lately, mainly because I love those games and you guys should definitely play them. You can get Kiwami and Zero for like 20 bucks each, it's fucking great. But since I'm going through the entire series again in preparation for when 7 comes out in November, I decided to sit down and watch an anime that gives off the same crazy vibe you would see in a Yakuza game. So let's talk about Hinamatsuri.
No, the world's a fucking slaughterhouse.
Now, Hinamatsuri is kind of a wacky story. It's the anime adaptation to the manga written by Masao Otake. The story follows a mid-level Yakuza named Yoshifumi Nita, a dude that enjoys a bachelor lifestyle and seems like all he cares about is partying and going to cabaret clubs. Well, his life is turned upside down when a telekinetic girl appears in his apartment, having just traveled back in time from the future. Realizing her powers can come in handy with his work, he takes the girl in and becomes her guardian. Unbeknownst to either of them, however, more time travelers begin to appear and shit goes haywire. So the plot is already pretty unconventional. If I had to describe it in a single sentence, it's Yakuza if Kiryu was a wuss and Haruka was Carrie. Now, if you want to go into this expecting a gritty crime drama mixed with Akira and the Terminator, you have the wrong mindset. This is a comedy, it's not meant to be taken seriously. In fact, any situation that can be interpreted as getting dramatic is almost immediately offset by a gag or a punchline. One of the biggest jokes of the series is Hina always ends up destroying Nita's apartment, which is filled with expensive furniture and decorations due to his vanity. There really aren't any major consequences to worry about, despite some teasing setups that don't really go anywhere. No, it's a goofy comedy, and the humor relies on the characters and how they bounce off each other. The titular Hina is a lazy, chill girl that doesn't really act like anything she does is a big deal. By comparison, Nita is far more hot-headed and angry. It's a pretty standard setup, the jokey one and the straight man, but the formula works well enough here. So that's all Hinamatsuri really truly is if you break it down. It's a goofy comedy with Yakuza elements and science fiction. But what really stands out for this show are the side characters. Not gonna lie, the cast here is a lot of fun. For instance, you have Anzu, who is another telekinetic girl from the future. She acts as sort of a rival for Hina and is essentially her complete opposite. While Hina is sort of self-centered and lazy, Anzu is a hard worker that cares for those around her. And this is actually addressed by characters in the story. A running joke is that Nita keeps trying to convince Anzu to replace Hina as his adoptive daughter. There's also Hitomi Mishima, a classmate of Hina that is completely unaware of any of the time travel stuff. She's basically a complete pushover, and her troubles with telling people no push her into increasingly absurd situations. She was probably my favorite character simply because of how crazy things get for her. There are more characters beyond these few, but you get the point. This is a story that has a lot of fun with the characters, and I don't want to explain everything so you can see for yourself. Now, when I say this anime has the same vibe as a Yakuza game, I'm not kidding. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not super massive, and honestly, I'd probably relegate this more to being a goofy side story that you would probably see in like Yakuza 6, because 6 was where you had some really over-the-top side stuff. Point is, this has the vibe of a goofier Yakuza game, but it's not really as tense or insane, because no, Nita is not the Dragon of Dojima. He's not even at Mad Dog of Shimano levels.
I know what that is!
He's a jobber, a mid-level guy working for a small family, but there's an emphasis on exploring the Tokyo nightlife, and you see things like characters hanging out at clubs or bars. There's a complex community of homeless people that sort of reminded me of Purgatory a little bit. Not too much because there isn't an underground casino, but you know. Now, I'm not even talking about the actual Yakuza politics that affect the story, because there really aren't any big conspiracies or really any desire whatsoever to focus on being a crime drama. You don't see Nita go from taking care of Hina and basically being an adoptive father to him fighting the CIA. It's more so that Nita being a Yakuza is treated like him just being an average Joe salaryman. Sure, on paper he's some violent gangster, but Nita is just an average dude. One of my favorite episodes is when a journalist asks if he can follow him around for a day and interview him about the Yakuza life. Nita reveals himself as basically a schlub, and he's about as dangerous as an accountant, but since that doesn't make good TV, the whole thing is chopped up and edited, so he comes across as the thuggish stereotype people associate with guys like him, and the entire family he's with mocks him over it. Really, he's more of just an irresponsible parent and kind of a douchebag than a vicious criminal, and that's kind kinda what I like most about the show. Average, everyday tasks are treated as over the top and include the sci-fi elements, but the part you would think would have a massive impact on the story, the Yakuza element, is actually very mundane and grounded. The only real time you ever see the two styles mesh together is the first episode, when Hina uses her powers to beat the shit out of an entire rival family. Other than that, nothing really ever comes up about it in the sense of affecting the plot. It's mainly a father-daughter story with sci-fi elements. That's not to say the Yakuza aspect is completely absent, it just doesn't take up the entire story and is mainly there for jokes. Now, if I have any criticisms for this show, it would be this. It's kinda just a commercial for the manga. Not to spoil too much, but there's a character that gets introduced really late in the game, and we don't really see what she's doing until the tail end, where she still hasn't really gotten to the main story yet. It's clearly a setup for future chapters, or a season 2 if it ever gets announced, but with 12 episode series, it can feel a tad pointless. I liked the parts with Mao. They were fun, but she doesn't have a lot of screen time. Still, Hinamatsuri is a lot of fun. I enjoyed this show for what it is, a really zany Yakuza comedy mixed with a family story. Sure, it's clearly just a commercial for the manga, but it's a good way to introduce people to it. I know I wanted to see more after I finished watching it, and there's enough merit to the animation to justify its existence. Like I said, the sense of humor is really over the top, so there's tons of creative moments where the emotions of characters are exaggerated or shit explodes. It's fun to look at, all I can say. Not peak Kill la Kill, but it's not Monster Girl Doctor. And am I the only one that legit thought that was a hentai at first? It straight up looks like one, like a super cheap one. Anyway, despite only having 12 episodes and no season 2 confirmed, I'll argue that Hinamatsuri is a good show to check out if you want anime with the same vibes and humor as something like Yakuza. Sure, it's not the same gritty Japanese crime drama, but it has the spirit within it deep down. At the very least, the concept is creative enough to warrant watching an episode or two. I enjoyed this show for what it is, and I hope you guys check it out as well. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys. Yo, also, when the fuck are we getting Way of the House Husband as an anime? I need to know how many guys I can take in a fight. Come on, it'll be hype.